Hey, Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Duncan. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem. Hey, before we get started, before we talk about some of the exciting events coming up, maybe you can first introduce yourself because most
Yes.
listeners probably know who Brad Tompkins is, but some may not. So maybe you can explain who you are and what you do.
Happy to. So I'm Brad Tompkins. I'm the executive director of VMUG. I've been doing this for over 10 years now. So it's been a minute, but it's been great and honor to represent just this community and be a part of it is fascinating. Just it's a lot of fun and I'm very thankful and blessed to be doing what I'm doing.
You mentioned the VMUG, and I would be shocked if some of the listeners don't know what the VMUG is. But just in case there's anyone out there that hasn't heard about the VMUG or what it represents, maybe you can explain what it is.
So there actually are a lot of people out there that are VMware users that might not have heard of VMUG. And so just to give you a overview of it. So VMUG is the VMware user group. We're an independent organization. We are not Broadcom. Sometimes people are confused about that. And our mission is pretty simple, is to educate members on VMware and partner solutions. And the partner solution piece is big because obviously VMware is great software, but it takes more than great software for people to run the data centers that they have and get the business that they need to get done completed. And so we do have a lot of partners that are part of it. VMUG membership is free. It's for end users, it's for Broadcom employees, it's for partners. And what our members tell us is that one of the big reasons they join VMUG is access to VMware and access to the expertise. And that's, of course, people like you, Duncan. But that's where I think partners are playing an increasing role with the changes that Broadcom has had about being that SME, especially if you're not a large customer and you need access to expertise. Getting that through VMUG with access to the partners and to Broadcom direct employees is the one of the ways that we do that. So encourage everybody to join VMUG. Again, it's free. And if you do that, you can see where you can get plugged into your local community. And that's very important because while we might have larger events that happen, and this year we'll be in 5 different places, the local chapters is where a lot of the magic happens and where you can get plugged into your local community, local peers, local partners, VMware employees or Broadcom employees, I should say, that can help you along your VCF journey or really any IT journey that you might be in the middle of.
Yeah, I think you're spot on because if I look at back at the all the times that I've been to an event, and I've actually been to, I don't know, probably close to 100 events all over the world, right? From Australia to South Africa and Iceland and the US, you name it. I've been basically everywhere. But I actually visited my first VMUG events. That was even before I joined VMware. So it's, probably 18, 19 years ago, before actually the international VMUG existed. Back then, there was no international VMUG. There were local events, and that was it. They were all doing something by themselves. Now, that probably also brings us to the next topics, and maybe you can explain what it is that you and the team do, because it's not just Brad Tompkins, right? There's a whole team behind you, and I think some people are kind of mistaken or don't really understand the dynamic between what it is that you do and what the leaders do. So maybe you can explain how that actually works and what it is that you do and how you facilitate some of the leaders.
So VMUG is, again, it's a nonprofit organization. It's an independent org, and it's run by a board of directors. And those board of directors, right now, we have 10 board of directors. Only one of those is a Broadcom employee. That's Eric Nielsen. And when I say 10, I mean voting. So I'm on the board, but I'm a non-voting member. And so the board sets the direction and the strategy and the vision of where the organization is going. But where really the bulk, candidly, of the work comes from is the local leaders. So these local leaders, we've got over 200 chapters across the globe. We have, 400 different chapter leaders across the globe, and they are able to set up local meetings, kind of do what they need to do for the local community. They're plugged in locally, so they know what's going on. So if it's a healthcare, focused area, maybe it's more healthcare content, or if it's more manufacturing or whatever. And that's by design. The local leaders and the local chapters can run pretty much autonomously. Now, there are staff that is part of VMUG, and we're there to help. And I'm part of that staff. We have a team of about 15 people. We've got offices in DC, in Chicago, in Nashville, and the Netherlands. And when I say offices, it really mean more like a larger group of people that are focused on that. And of course, we have people that are all over the place that work from home. In the new world that we're in, people can work anywhere. But nonetheless, they are there to help facilitate the local chapters, also help facilitate some of these larger events. So from a local chapter perspective, we have the infrastructure, the web pages, the ability to email people and all that kind of stuff that local leaders can take advantage of and tap into and get their local events going. We provide training. In fact, I know we're going to be talking about Connect, but at the Connect, we're going to have a half-day training for all the leaders that can participate in that. And so, yes, we're there and the team's there to facilitate what the local leaders are doing wherever they are in the world. Because if you have some things that you need to get done, we have the infrastructure to do it. Take something like a web page. That you can set that up on the VMUG site. Now, we do have a lot of chapters that are like, you know what, we want to do more. We want to have our own website and those kind of things. And that's fine. We encourage that. That's fine if you want to do that. It's not required. But that's kind of an example of where some leaders are very active and they want to kind of do their own website and those sort of things, completely fine. But we do have some that are like, hey, I can put some time in this, but not a lot. So we want to have the infrastructure there and the people there to support them, to kind of meet them where they're at. And that's one of the things that we do. Now, some of our larger events, there's a lot of risk that we take on there. And what I mean by that is when you're signing a contract with a hotel with food and beverage minimums and all these requirements and upfront payments, that's too much to ask for a local leader to do, to put down, sometimes, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of risk into a type of a program. So that's where we step in as well to help out. But I think the key is that this board is made up of, 9 of the 10 are volunteers. They span the gamut as far as industry, where they are in the world, what they're doing with the software and those kind of things. And they're the ones that set direction. And then myself, that's part of the staff that help facilitate that and execute on that. And then the local leaders are key to that as well. They're all volunteers. And that's kind of where the magic is, because once you get that activity going locally, that really builds up to the global VMUG. It's kind of, each chapter at a time builds into what VMUG is, which is, just a great community that is a global community and here to help people out.
Yeah, and I think, what you mentioned in terms of how you've been capable or been able to standardize things has been a big help for the community. The website, etc., is all great, but of course the events is probably even a bigger part. And talking about the events, when I look at the various VMUG chapters, I see different kinds of events bubbling up. And I've been to many different types of events, and I would encourage everyone not just to attend VMUG Connect, which we'll be talking about in a second, but also the local events, because I think they are fantastic, especially for networking opportunities. But maybe you could talk us through, what kind of events there are, so that people actually have a better understanding of in terms of what they can expect.
Yeah, so from a local level, it's really kind of all over the place. There are some chapters that do multi-day events. It's a multi-day. You spend the night, those kind of things. I'll say that's rare, but that does happen. Some are a quarter day, a half day, full day even type event where they have multiple sponsors. But I would say the bulk of them are just more like lunchtime meetings, maybe a lunch and learn. Maybe it's a V beers where you're getting together toward the end of the day to have conversations. Sometimes there's sponsors associated with that, where you might hear from a local sponsor. You would hear from Broadcom and what's going on with VCF and what's going on with the VMware software. Sometimes it's just, hey, let's get together and maybe a whiteboard session and just kind of, plow out whatever issues on there, and the community gets together and talks and just kind of helps each other out. Again, that's where a lot of the good stuff happens at a VMUG. And that's kind of the wide range that we have when it comes from local chapters. But it really works. And I agree with you, Duncan. Get out to these local events. I would say 99% of them are complimentary to show up. And if you're a sponsor out there or a partner and you want to talk about some solution that you're doing, that's a great way to get out on a local level. The other thing that this does is it allows people to tap into other skill sets. So if you become a leader, and we're always recruiting leaders, so you can go to the website and say, hey, I'm interested in being a leader, and we'll get you plugged in and trained and all that kind of stuff. But it really adds to the skill set of being able to talk to people, present, get your ideas across. And that's even becoming more and more important as people are moving up the stack, adopting the cloud operating model. It's no longer about, hey, I'm, server virtual infrastructure expert, and I just live in this one little area. You got to break down silos to really utilize the cloud operating model like it should be used. And that requires communication skills. It requires, public speaking skills. Even though it might be an internal conversation, you could be talking to your CFO or your CIO and those kind of things. So we do cover more than just the tech side of things. And I encourage people to get involved on a local level. And if you want to be a leader and be involved in that as well, we can certainly help you out. I have personally seen that accelerate so many different careers, and it's helped people all along the way. So that's part of the magic of VMUG.
When I first presented, it was on stage at VMworld, and I wish I actually had done a local VMUG instead of going on stage at VMworld first, because it's just daunting, the amount of people in the room, and doing that at a local VMUG with friendly people, maybe 50, 60 people in the room makes a big difference. Now, last year, for the very first time, you organized VMUG Connect, and I know Frank was the keynote speaker, and he said many good things about the event itself. But maybe you can explain, what that event is about, but maybe more importantly, why we introduced this, and how is it different from a user con that people are already familiar with?
Right. So the user cons, if you're not familiar with those, then those were one-day events, and they were just, again, content. We had a keynote, breakout session, those kind of things. And what we heard from our members was, lots of changes have happened with Broadcom, but the part of that really is kind of hit home is VCF and the cloud operating model that we were just talking about. That is a lot to take on, and there's a lot of context there. Most of our members are really experts on vSphere and vCenter and those kind of things. And they've been telling us for years they want to move up the stack, and they want to move to vSAN and NSX and, the full cloud operating model and run that. And so they told us, like, we got to go deeper in this content. We got to understand this more. And it really just logistically got too difficult to do that in a day. We started hearing that, like, we're spread too thin. We're not going deep enough. So we did introduce last year VMUG Connect. So that's different than a user con in a couple of ways. One, it is a paid event. Price point's going to be anywhere from about $250 to $550 US. So it's not crazy expensive, but there is a charge to it. But it's multi-day. So this allows you to go deeper into content. You have more sessions that you can attend. The people that are speaking at these sessions, like yourself, you're able to go deeper into it. And we really want this content because there's other events out there like Explore and Explore on Tour. Encourage everybody to go to those as well. And yes, they're going to be talking about VMware products. We will be as well. But we wanted to be able to get community people up there to talk about it, real world examples of, hey, this is how I'm using it. I thought Explore on main stage last year with Grinnell Mutual was great because it wasn't a huge name Fortune 100 type customer. And that really resonated. And I heard from a lot of people like, wow, that was great to hear from Grinnell because that's more like what I'm dealing with. I don't have 1 million cores out there. Maybe you only have a couple hundred or 1,000. But that's what we want to get down to. And we take a good bit of our sessions and have it to where it's just community people speaking. So if you're a community speaker out there, or if you're not and you want to be, get involved in VMUG and let us know. You can submit a paper and we can help you out as far as training and those kind of things. But that's where we really want that content to be, on real world examples. And this could also include the gotchas, the challenges, the hurdles that you're going to have to get over. Running this in a pristine home lab where everything is perfect and it's brand new hardware, that's not real world for most people. And you might have other things out there that you're having to deal with as well, as far as, different types of hardware or whatever the case is. And it's like, oh, well, here's a situation where I've got an older system, but this is how I got it to work. So that's the kind of content that we're looking for at a Connect. These events will be anywhere from 300 to 500 people, so much smaller than some of the Explorers and Explore on Tours. And there's value in both of those. But some people might be able to come up there and, I know you're familiar with this, Duncan. You go and you do a session or a keynote, and there's a lot of people there that's wanting to talk to you. In an environment like this, we want it to be more intimate, where people can really know who they're at the conference with, and you make those lifelong connections that You see them 2 or 3 times in that 2.5 day period, but that leads to further conversations at the local chapter meeting and then down the road, and really make these peer connections that sometimes are easier at smaller events.
I fully agree, because even at the UseCon level, sometimes it's difficult to really connect with people, especially if you look at the UseCon in the Netherlands. We've had events where there were about 1,000 people. So if you then do
Yes.
the keynote, it's quite daunting. But if you look at some of the local events where there's only 50 people or 100 people, it's a completely different setting. You get questions during the sessions, etc. So yeah, it's completely different. And the other thing I also want to emphasize what you mentioned in terms of that this event is all about talking about some of the hurdles, some of the challenges. I think that should be the case for VMUG in general, right? That was the case when I started. It was all about users, because that's the U, that's what the U stands for in VMUG, right? It's about the users sharing their experiences, and hopefully that's going to happen more in the future. Now, one thing that I felt was kind of missing, because in Europe, of course, we'll have an event in Amsterdam, but there's only one event in Amsterdam. So how are you going to get some of the other leaders involved that are in the other countries in Europe that typically would also organize a UserCon?
Yes, that's a great question. So what we do is we have a task force for each of our connects, and they're going to be attended by, that task force is going to be filled with people that are in that local area. And I can tell you, because we're only doing one Connect in Europe, we really want this to be the European Connect. Like, we want more than just people from the Netherlands coming to this. So in that task force, we have people from Czech Republic, from Egypt, Madrid, Germany, Netherlands, of course, Greece, Italy, Belgium, Norway. So a lot of people are a part of that to help make that event better. And that, what they bring is invaluable, because they know the area better than maybe some team members that I've mentioned. We do have an office in the Netherlands, but if you're sitting in Chicago or in Nashville, you might not know exactly what's going on a local level. Certainly not from what the technology and what people are using and those sort of things. So they bring a tremendous amount of value to each Connect that kind of makes it unique for that area. And obviously, Explore Barcelona doesn't happen anymore. So this is an opportunity for people to come in and, maybe a little bit further away. Amsterdam's easy to get to, but, maybe a little bit further away, but really kind of rally all the local VMUG members and new members that will be attending to, get behind this and learn and realize what VMUG is about and how VMUG can help them out. And really, that help is going to come from other VMUG members. It's not a VMUG program that's like, here, this is how we can help you. It's connecting you with other people that makes it so valuable to, build out that network like you mentioned earlier.
Now, we've mentioned Amsterdam, of course, and I know there's multiple events being planned as we speak, or actually they have been planned and they are scheduled. Maybe you can talk about what people can expect at a Connect event. Maybe we can take Amsterdam as an example. So what will the agenda more or less look like? Because as you mentioned, it's multiple days. So where does it start and where does it end?
All right. So day zero will be on Tuesday. So the festivities will kick off on Tuesday. So we have got some sessions that'll be more almost like an unconference. So you will be able to have whiteboard sessions. We've got certainly some sessions that are more traditional type sessions that are going on. But the idea is to let people get in, get acclimated, find out who's there and those kind of things. Also on that day, if you're a leader, that's where that leader training is going to happen. It's all 5 of these connects. So if you're a leader, there's leader training opportunity. If you're coming in that morning, we'll have things for you to do, whatever time you're coming in on day zero, which is Tuesday. Then the real first keynote is happening on day 1. So that'll be Wednesday. And that's going to be a keynote that you'll be doing. So thank you for that.
It's going to be fantastic.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. And then we also have some A&S content on the vDefense side and Avi Load Balancer. I think Chris McCain is the one that's going to be keynoting that. Then we're going to break into sessions. There's going to be 4 or 5 tracks worth of sessions that you can pick. Very similar to other conferences you've probably been at. We also have the exhibit hall. So there's a good bit of partners that are going to be at this event. So we're happy that they're part of it. They're not only going to be at the exhibit hall, but they'll be presenting as well. Intel, Valley Cyber, and ComDivision are our diamond sponsors for this event. And so they will be there not only with the sessions, but on the trade show floor, and of course, other sponsors as well. And then we're going to have an evening activity on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we'll come back. We'll have a closing keynote on Thursday. And during that time, we also have hands-on labs. There'll be some certification opportunities that can happen all throughout the event. And then we'll wrap up Thursday, and you can take all that newfound knowledge and put it to work the next day. And one thing that we try to do at any VMUG is think about two things. One, what is something that you can take away that you can use tomorrow? Maybe that's some, new feature you didn't know about in vSphere, or something new in NSX or vSAN or something. But also, what do you need to know that's coming down the pipe that you might not be aware of? Of course, we're going to be talking about AI, because it's not a tech conference if you don't talk about AI. But, some of our members might not be that well versed in Kubernetes, and you think about VKS and the things that can happen there, or what's coming down the pipe. I was just on another session, about some of these vulnerabilities that are happening out there. So just things you need to be aware of. A lot of times we get head down on the day-to-day type stuff, and we want to make sure our member knows what's coming down the pipe that they need to be aware of and plan for.
It sounds like a fantastic event. Now, you mentioned it's multiple days. So the next question, of course, then is, and it's not just in Amsterdam where it's multiple days, but does VMUG also provide like a hotel discount, etc.? How does that work?
Yeah, so when you register, there's an opportunity to get with the hotel in Amsterdam. It's the Inhal, which is right across the street. So we do have a room block there. I encourage you to hop onto that room block. It'll save you some money. It'll also help out VMUG, because again, I mentioned some of the risks there. We have to guarantee X amount of rooms being booked in that. So that helps us out if you're planning on going to the event to book a room there. Obviously, Amsterdam has tons of hotels around there. That's going to be the official hotel. But regardless of how you get there, if you're local and you're traveling in each day, there's plenty of ways to get to the event. But all of our events have hotel room blocks associated with it. A lot of them will be at hotels. This one is not. But again, there's one right across the street at the Inhal that's the official VMUG hotel.
Yeah, for those who are not aware, there's a train station literally more or less next to the event center. So if you do want to go into the city but stay at the event center, it's going to be fairly easy to go around Amsterdam. So don't worry about that, because I can imagine a lot of the people flying in from everywhere in Europe probably will want to visit the city center at some point. Now, if you look at Amsterdam, you've already more or less alluded to it. What kind of numbers do you expect in terms of the number of attendees? And do you expect them to actually visit Amsterdam from all over Europe, or will it primarily be Dutch people, which I'm hoping it will not, but it could happen, of course.
Reg is looking pretty good, and we definitely have people coming from all over Europe. I know there's some from Scotland, from UK, from Belgium, from France. Right now, a lot are from the Netherlands, and that's to be expected. As far as size, we're hoping to get 500 people there. I think that's very obtainable. I mean, last year at the UserCon in Den Bosch, we had over 500 people there. And, you mentioned it's not too many years ago where there was over 1,000 people at the Netherlands UserCon. And the Netherlands and Europe is a really, just strong attended place for VMUGs. I mean, typically the Netherlands event is always the biggest event, the world's largest, UserCon in the past. I'm anticipating that to be the case again this year for Connects. I think if I had to bet, though, Toronto might give you a good run for the money. They've got some strong activity going on there as well. But these events are going to be in the 300 to 500 range. Again, I think Netherlands will probably be the biggest, and that's where we're going to be. And, we'll see what happens in the future. These things might grow a little bit. I don't anticipate a scenario where they're growing to, multiple thousand type events as far as people attending. Because we do want to kind of hit that sweet spot of size. So we'll see what happens. But the beta test in 2025 was good. That's why we went from 1 to 5 this year. And we'll see what 2027 and beyond holds.
Now, you've mentioned Amsterdam and Toronto. So what are the other 3 events that are going to be organized this year then?
Yeah, so March is in Amsterdam, and then April is in Minneapolis. May is Toronto. June is Dallas, and Orlando is in October. So the reason we take that break at that time is because of VMware Explore. VMware Explorer is going to be back at the Venetian. It's going to be in Vegas, and that's a great event. That's not our event, obviously, but we are there. We're there in large force, so we have to prepare for that. Broadcom is preparing for that, so we do kind of take a little bit of break there, and then after that event, we'll be in Orlando, like I mentioned, and I know there's going to be exploring tours going on in Europe as well. So, we work with Broadcom. I mentioned that we're tightly aligned. We work with the Broadcom events team to make sure that we're not overlapping and making sure that, these events can all be successful. And I know they will be, but that's one of the reasons why we take that break. Candidly, I'm happy to take that break because, again, Explore is a big event for us. So it's a lot to prep for that one.
We've mentioned various different events. We've spoken about the VMUG Connect, the UserCons, the local events, and you mentioned VBeers. But you've also just mentioned that you're visiting Dallas. So I got to ask, is there going to be a V barbecue? What can we expect? I mean, we need to have a V barbecue, right? It needs to happen.
I don't know that that's on the agenda, but maybe we can add it to it. Yes, there will definitely be a lot of good food at all these events, but of course, Dallas is known for his barbecue. And I know I just, set it off with all the Kansas City people and the Carolina people and all that kind of stuff. But, that's always good conversation. But one thing I wanted to mention is outside of in-person event is we do have virtual events as well. So we do webinars quite often. I mean, we do a lot of webinars, and those are going to be, typically an hour. They're going to be very specific on a topic. If you're a VMUG member, you'll get the emails from us, so you can join the ones that you want to on those. And the other thing is we have a global virtual event. So this event is huge. We'll have, last year we had over 3,000 people at these events. We do 2 a year. Paul Turner keynoted last time that we did it. And so again, that's a way to get access to some of these folks, not only technical folks that are, VCDXs and can go super deep like yourself, but also people like a Paul Turner, or Chris. We've had Hawk at him in the past as well, not anticipating him come, to any this year. But, that's the kind of access that we can get you just by being a complimentary VMUG member. And what's great is Broadcom supports VMUG tremendously. And a lot of people have asked me, what's the support been like after the acquisition? And I can tell you, this is a bold statement, but it's even better than what it was under VMware. And it's bold because VMware was a tremendous supporter of VMUG. So that has not only, that hasn't decreased, that has increased, which has been great. I was out in Palo Alto a couple weeks ago doing planning meetings with them and those with Broadcom. So it's a great relationship, and that support is there. And at the end of the day, we're all kind of after the same thing. We want people to adopt VCF, to get the full value out of VCF, and really accelerate people's careers and accelerate people's businesses that they're responsible for. And if you are not thinking about how to adopt the cloud operating model and the software-defined data center and all those kind of things, we don't want you left behind. And I'm afraid that might happen. But our members are smart, and they know. I mentioned that they say they want to move up the stack. And I'm like, well, now's your chance, because people are buying VCF. And now I've seen the shift in the past probably 6 to 9 months. I have the opportunity to go to a lot of events and talk to a lot of people. It kind of moved away from, if we're going to do this, to we've done it. Now my boss is telling me, all right, we're all in on VCF. We got to extract all the value we can out of that. And that's why content like, okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts on how you really configure vSAN or really adopt full vSAN. And, maybe you're displacing some other technologies to make up some of that savings, but you also get the agility, the speed, et cetera, et cetera. This is your wheelhouse here, Duncan. But that's what we're seeing. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we wanted to go to multi-day and provide more in-depth content.
Awesome. Well, I think that was spot on, Brad. Thanks. But before I let you go, any famous last words or any final thoughts, or maybe even a call to action you would like to share?
Get involved in VMUG. Again, it is complimentary. It doesn't cost you anything. It's easy to do. You go to the website. And when you do that, get plugged into your local chapters. If that's all you do, I think that's the best way to get involved in VMUG. And if you do that, then you're going to want to attend some of these other events, the webinars, the global virtual events, the connects, and those kind of things. The second thing is think about getting certified. I think certification, it kind of ebbs and flows, and people might not think that they've needed it in the past, but getting a VCF certification will really set you up for long-term success. And then finally, be a champion in your company to adopting the cloud operating model. It's going to take people to step up and say, let me own this. Many members have in the past been like, you know what, I own server virtualization, and that propelled, my career. Maybe that was 5, 10, 15 years ago. If you can be that champion in your company and say, you know what, I'm going to step up and I'm going to show my company how, if we adopt the cloud and adopt VCF and really lean into this, this is going to help us many different ways. And then regardless of what comes, regardless of what workload you might be dealing with, whether it's AI or Kubernetes or whatever, you've got a platform that can do that. But more so, you're setting your company up to differentiate itself from the competitors. And candidly, in some case, keep your company going, because competitors are going to be doing this as well. And so you want to make sure your company is where it needs to be, prepared for what the future is in this changing world of IT.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And that's it. Thanks for tuning in to the Unexplored Territory podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review or rating wherever possible. And please join us again next time as we cover more insights into cutting-edge solutions shaping the world of IT. Until then, stay comfortable, keep exploring.